Good morning, everyone. This video is going to be all about one of my favorite topics. We're going to be talking about data infrastructure, something that's very important to the college. And we have a friend with us, Sarah Pegram. Say hi, Sarah.
Hello.
And what we're going to be talking about is, at SEC over the last few years, we've really increased our ability to look at data, to understand data, and to use it in our decision making. But one of the first things we had to do, and I believe we started this in 2015, we had to build and create a data warehouse. And we're using one particular product, but it still has to be set up and maintained and constantly adjusted to ensure we have valid and reliable data. And our IR folks can't really do any effective reporting in analysis if they don't have a really powerful, robust data set. So Sarah, tell us about what you do. And I believe you're officially in the IT department, but you are dedicated to IR.
Yes, that's true. My official title is Business Intelligence Developer, and I am officially in the IT department. But as I so lovingly am titled, I am embedded with the IR team. And so the IR team is really my primary focus and my primary responsibility. The main reason that I was brought on board was to work with the Zogotech data warehouse. That was purchased before I was hired, but that was my first project after being hired, was to bring this data warehouse to life. And that is really the driving force behind all of the data that IR uses to send reports. That is probably what about, I'd say 90% of our data reports from Tableau or Excel, whatever gets sent out to the college to be consumed. A broad majority of that comes from our Zogotech data warehouse. And all of that is fed from Colleague.
And so what sort of, you also do reports, customized reports pretty frequently. Is that also coming out of the data warehouse?
Yes, that data warehouse is usually the first place that we go to gather data. And the really cool thing about Zogotech is that it takes all the information that is entered into Colleague and it does all sorts of calculations and identifies really powerful tools that we use in a lot of our reporting, like when was the first semester that a student attended with us after high school? What was their admission basis? Were they, did they transfer in to us from somewhere else? Are they a first-time freshman? We can follow a student as they are enrolled with us. We can follow each semester what they did with us, whether they transferred out someplace else, whether they continued on, whether they were what we call a stop out, where they took off a semester in between. So we just have a lot of really rich data that we can use and learn about our students and follow what's happening and better understand the demographics of our student population.
I think one of the great things about what we do here at SEC in using data, we certainly track students to better understand and help them be successful, but we also use the data constantly for the purposes of, for operational purposes. So for example, we have an enrollment model where we build our schedules, I think pretty much entirely based on a lot of the reports that you help generate to show
Yes.
where the demand is, where what our utilization rate is, not just by course delivery type, but by time of day, building location, or campus location, so that we can know if most students want to take a course between 8 and 12, because most of our students work, as an example. You build specialized reports that our enrollment folks use to find out exactly what the schedule should look like, and then they partner with the instructional divisions to try to make sure those schedules can be developed in that way that we have available.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
a part of what you do, and then you do that every
Yes.
semester.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of very rich course data as well. We've also been using Zogotech very heavily, Rebecca primarily, as she's been partnering with all of the facilities projects to look at room utilization and space allocation. So Zogotech has just been a really powerful foundation for a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's so important when we're relying so much on data is there's lots of data, and I like to think that most everyone is data driven. I believe that, but sometimes that data isn't very reliable. Sometimes it's just something you hear, you don't know if it's actually true. But in the case of what you do, is you're constantly checking. I know sometimes I myself have said, Sarah, this can't be right. You know,
Mm-hmm.
ask
Mm-hmm.
you to take a look at it, and then we'll find out that maybe a connector, something that was connecting one file to another, maybe it wasn't working right, and it wasn't picking up the data in the way that we thought it was supposed to be.
Yes.
So tell us about how much of a role, or is that that's a pretty regular thing that you have to pay attention to.
Yes, yes, it is. And it's constantly spot checking every time we create a report. We're validating whether that data looks accurate. And sometimes we stumble upon things that don't look accurate without looking for it. But on a regular basis, yes, I am comparing the information in that data warehouse to colleague and to Informer reports and other known sources to make sure that something hasn't changed. And then I work with the programmers and the folks at Zogotech to add, change, make corrections, add customizations, and tweak the data warehouse on a pretty regular basis to make sure that that data is trustworthy.
Yeah, it's such a, my background is institutional research planning, strategic planning. And so it was really important to me, and I was fortunate that the board was very supportive. I told them very early on that I needed to build out an institutional research office and build out our IT capabilities,
Mm-hmm.
that we could be able to really use data to drive the college in a very strategic way. And I think it's worked really well. Why don't you speak just a little bit about, I think what's really interesting about your particular role is the fact that you are in IT and you're kind of embedded in
Mm-hmm.
IR, and it's a little different because often the models they follow a more traditional approach. But I think it works really well because it creates some efficiency. You don't have to worry about, getting permission to talk to the programmers. They're just right there. You can all kind of work together.
Yeah, definitely. Having one foot in both worlds has been huge to the success and collaboration between IT and IR, and being able to have insight into what our IR is doing and needing, and be able to communicate that to IT and have that constant flow of information back and forth, and also understanding what IT is working on, what their struggles are, has been really critical um, to maintaining, I think, this collaboration. IT and IR are inseparable. They really depend on one another, and so to have a natural bridge between those two has been very beneficial.
The last thing I wanted to mention before we let everyone go is that your world really didn't change in terms of COVID. I remember pre-COVID, I would see you were always Zooming with
Yeah,
folks. And so is that fair
yeah.
to say that this doesn't probably feel that different other than maybe you're operating out of your home?
Right. Yes. I mean, a lot of my time was spent on Zoom, working with other IT partners on different campuses, working with the software partners that I coordinate with. I not only work with Zogotech, but part of my role is also to work with other softwares in my IT-IR combination. So I work with Nuventive. I'm on calls with them a lot. Nuventive is our software for planning and soon to be used for assessment. That's our next rollout. I work with the clearinghouse, and I submit to the National Student Clearinghouse all of our student enrollment and our graduations, and so I'm talking and working with them. So yes, that is true. The transition to working from home was not terribly dramatic for me. I was already doing a lot of that in the office. That's accurate.
Well, do you have anything else that you would like to add, Sarah? Just anything you want to share with everyone as it relates to working with data or anything else?
I just really encourage everyone to dig into the data and to ask questions about it. It can be a pretty complicated thing, and there are no dumb questions when it comes to data and how to use that information. And so, one of my very favorite things to do is to sit down and talk with someone about what is it that you are trying to answer? What are you trying to get at? And then go into the data and figure out how to give that to them. So that's one of my favorite things about my job. And if there's ever questions that people have about their data or what to do with it, at the IR office loves to do that, and I love to partner with that. So
I think one of the things that's really interesting about that is really encouraging people to try to go into a question about the data. Try to go into it as much as possible in a neutral way, because if you go to it into a way where you're already sort of think you have the answer, and what happens is that might limit how much you actually search the data. Because as soon as you see something that lines up with what you thought you would want to see, it might you might not get the whole story. But if you ask for enough of the data and go into it open-mindedly, like if you're curious about the difference between students in online only or online face-to-face or hybrid, if you go to it and say, I really don't know what to expect here, then it's going to allow you to be able to look at everything and maybe dig a little deeper and not just stop when you see something that seems to be in alignment with what you were thinking. And that's a really difficult thing to do. We all have our own biases, so that's quite challenging. I think that's always a really great message to let people, suggest to people that go into this in a neutral way, so we can kind of, sometimes things surprise you, and that can be a really good thing. Anything else, Sarah?
Yeah, no, just thanks for the opportunity to chat with you, and look forward to seeing you in person again someday, right?
Someday. We're working on it. We're getting there. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
take care, and everyone have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Good.